Woman inherits a house along with a mysterious safe from her grand aunt that turns out to be a time capsule. A woman inherited a house from her grand aunt. After her aunt's death, she moved into her house as that was the last wish of her grand aunt. She had visited this house many times when her grand aunt was still alive, but that particular day, when she decided to explore the house, she unknowingly came face to face with a secret that her grand aunt had kept from the world. It was all inside a safe in the storeroom. She decided to open it up, and what she found inside turned out to be too big a surprise for her to handle. A lady inherited a house from her grand aunt who had died a few days ago. She was very close to her grand aunt, and that is why the old woman named her as the future owner of the house. However, her grand aunt never told her anything about her past, despite the closeness they shared. After the demise of her grand aunt, the lady moved into the house. Though she had visited the house multiple times to see her grand aunt in the past, she never really took much notice of its interior. But now, as the house was hers, she decided to take a tour of it. Little did she know her decision to explore this old house will have unexpected consequences. She began with a living room that looked quite elegant. It was spacious and beautiful. She wondered how she had never admired its beauty. After that, she moved to the rooms. She had seen all of these rooms before, but not for once did she spare a moment to grasp in their features. And lastly, she entered the storeroom. Now that was the place where the true mystery lay. The whole of the room was filled with dust. Most of the stuff were scattered here and there. The woman was curious by nature. Though she knew she would not get anything significant here, she continued exploring this less visited part of the house. Her roaming eyes halted on a box that was giving extremely weird vibes. She sensed that something was really off about the box. Moreover, the safe was sitting in a corner way far from other objects in the room. It seemed as if the box belonged to the elite class among the commoners' objects. Amazingly, she felt an immediate attraction to the box. It was clear that the box was kept away from other stuff purposefully. But why would her grand aunt do that? Now all her old suspicions came rushing back to her mind. Her instinct had always told her that there was something mysterious about the old lady. Even though she was old and frail, she always gave mysterious vibes to her. And now, as she was dead, this box was giving the same vibes. She went near the box. Just like all the other things in the room, as expected, it was all covered with dust. She patted the box, giving rise to all the dust long settled on it. In no time, the new owner found herself surrounded with small particles of dust. It became difficult for her to breathe, so she covered her mouth with her hand and waited for the dust to settle. She inspected the box and realized that it was locked. Nothing had intrigued her this much in her entire life. She really wanted to know what was lying inside. The fact that her grand aunt kept it in such obscurity was solely enough to whet her curiosity. The lady did not have the key to the safe. Despite that, she was going to open it. The grand aunt of the lady did not have an easy life. The woman had to go through a lot owing to the changes in the climate of world politics. She found herself a shelter in Hamburg after fleeing Russia in the 1940s. Notably, this time is primarily famous for mass emigration. A large population of the world moved from one city, country, or continent to others in the hope of finding a safe shelter from persecution. Just like many other people in danger, her grand aunt assumed that migrating to Hamburg would save her from persecution and other threats looming over her young life. Little did she know she had made a worse decision, but what role did this mysterious-looking box play in her life? She tried to drag the box to bring it to the light, but she could not. It was very heavy and did not move an inch. Clearly, the box was burdened with either a lot of stuff or something very heavy. What possibly could her grand aunt keep in this safe? It was clear by its appearance that it was meant to hold some really valuable items. She tried with her hand to open it as she assumed that the lock would have gotten weaker with time, but that was not the case. The safe was not only locked, but its hinges were tightly bolted. Only a key could open it, but where was she going to find its key? She ran toward her grandaunt's room, as the chances of finding the key there were highest. She checked the drawers and wardrobe and finally found a key that looked unused and very old. She picked up the key and rushed back to the safe. It was time to open it up. Though she had the key in her hand, she was still doubtful if that would work. As mentioned earlier, the box was old, so the woman had no clue if it would get opened or not after so many years. Clearly, the box was rusty and was not in good condition. On the other hand, she was not sure if the key would work at all. With all the doubts in her, she pushed the key into the keyhole, and after that she tried to turn the key around, but as expected, the key did not move at all. But before giving up, she decided to turn it again with all her strength, and this time it worked. The key turned around and the safe clicked open. The giant safe gave away a foul smell on being opened. The box was stinking because of the fact that it had stayed closed for many decades. Initially, it suffocated her, but soon she acclimated herself to that. The first thing that she noticed was a tray that had nothing on it. She wondered if this was all just a bunch of old trash. No, it was not, and soon she was going to learn that. The regular empty-looking tray did break her confidence. Was all the effort and time she put into this endeavor a big waste? She picked up the tray and downed it on the floor to see what was lying beneath it, and with that, the moments of surprise began. She observed that the box was internally divided into many compartments. Interestingly, those compartments had some really intriguing stuff stored inside. Unlike the first tray, other compartments were full of many other goods that actually were going to make her day. The niece found a number of pictures, documents, and books. She indeed had found a treasure of a different kind. The first thing that attracted her the most was the pictures. She took all of them out and saw if she recognized anyone. Well, she could not recognize many of them, but was pretty sure that all of them were relatives. And then her attention got diverted to another compartment that was holding something historical. She saw a copy of Mein Kampf. The book is an autobiography of Nazi leader Adolf Hitler. Well, one might not consider this discovery to be a big deal, as millions of copies were made after the publishing of the original one. But this one was special in the sense that it was printed during the time Hitler was unleashing his terror all around the world. She learned that this copy got published in 1943, after going through some research work. Furthermore, she learned that the book could be traded for $350. However, selling or insuring a book as controversial as this one would involve a lot of hardships. After all, the book was written by someone who symbolized terror, violence, and destruction in his time, so the book represented all these things too. So what else did she find? She got her hand on a novel, Rob Roy, written by Sir Walter Scott. This book was battered from its corner that clarified that it was read multiple times by its owner. Whoever owned this book must have loved this one. This was a new experience for the lady too. She felt like she was time traveling. She had traveled to the past. There were many renowned books. The next she found was Leipzig, published in 1846. Whereas the copy of Mein Kampf that she had found was published during the reign of Hitler, this one was published much earlier. She imagined her great-aunt trotting all around Europe with this novel. The safe was itself a tiny library. She discovered a copy of Lady and the Tramp. In contrast to the popular belief that it is the name of a classic Disney movie, it is originally a novella written for children. It was in 1953 this copy got published. Interestingly, it was written in German. Well, she wondered who in her family would have bought this book that it was written in German. Who would have enjoyed reading it? Unfortunately, she had no answers to these questions. She also discovered some pictures. In this picture, she thought of the little girl to be her grandmother. She was not sure though. However, the little girl in the picture looked a lot like her grandmother. Though she was not very sure about the above picture, she knew exactly who was in this one. This picture featured her grandfather. Clearly, her grandfather is riding a motorcycle. The photo had an amusing composition. Her grandfather was riding a bike and had a pasture full of many cows behind him. The picture itself tells the kind of person her grandfather used to be. Then came the picture of children who formed a part of the Hitler Youth movement. These boys must have witnessed those horrifying incidents occurred during Nazi rule that makes us shudder even today. In those times, it was compulsory for children to admit to the Hitler Youth movement. While this adorable postcard came from 1916, what makes this postcard special is its front picture that shows an army officer kissing his bride farewell minutes before parting from her in order to travel off to rejoin his duty. Apparently, this too is connected with the war. Now this one came into existence in 1941 and has a stamp of Nazi government on it. People living in Germany were kept under 24 hours of scrutiny by the Nazi government. This stamp was not only for mail process, but was also used as a reminder to the people that they are being watched by the government. Here was another postcard belonging to 1916. This one was released by the Army in a stylized print to motivate women and men to become soldiers and nurses in the time of the First World War. However, the image posted on top of the postcard looked more like a snap from a romantic movie than a recruiting card. If you look at the picture carefully, you would see a caption below it. The line translates for "a house destroyed by the enemy." In those days, people's only source of information was newspaper and radio, so the government used to publish prints of this sort and distribute it in the public to impart information related to war. These types of prints were often distributed during the war. She found a Nivea cream too. No doubt these containers were in remarkably good state. Opening them up after so many decades to see how it survived all these years did not seem a great idea. This photo features Kaiser's air at the time of the First World War. Though today it was a rare item, in those days these kinds of photos were very common and could easily be found in every other house of Germany. No doubt this box was a time capsule that once again brought the most regretted and controversial past to the present.